Well, good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us, and welcome to Real Fellas Talk Sports. Of course, you guys know it's my favorite time of the week. Wednesday night at 8 o'clock. Can't wait to get in the week we had in sports. Now, before we get into it, we're going to talk about the Boston Celtics. I'm going to get a little bit of egg off my face because I was wrong about that series. Let me introduce the fellas, and we have a special guest, and so we'll get to him in a second as well. So, from my neighborhood for 50 plus years, maybe the best athlete in the neighborhood, one of the gentlemen in the neighborhood, my schoolmate, all around great guy, Mr. Larry Abels. Good evening and welcome, sir.
Good evening, Chuck. I appreciate the kind words, and please know that I feel similarly about you.
Okay, another gentleman from my neighborhood who would always make sure he comes to my side of the block, get us to play football, and beat our brains out. And he was the partying this guy. No one can outdance this guy. I don't know if they can outdance him now. He is the sports doctor. He is Mr. Go-Go, Earl Rush. Good evening, Mr. Rush. How you doing?
Charles Snowden, I'm doing well. Chuck Snowden, thanks for having me on the show. And be careful about saying Larry, the best athlete in the neighborhood, because you've been saying that a lot, and I've been getting calls every week, and I forgot to tell Larry this. I've been getting calls every week. Larry was the best athlete. And I said, well, who was? But they never give me an answer, so.
Well, the good news is more people are watching than I thought, so that's good.
Exactly.
Right.
All right.
And we have a special guest this evening joining the fellas, Mr. Charles Snowden III. Charles just got home last Friday from mini camp with the Las Vegas Raiders, and he said he would join us, and we'd super appreciate it. We can kind of get the young people's perspective about some of the topics in sports. Charles, welcome to the show, my friend.
I appreciate you guys having me here. Dad or Mr. Snowden tonight, how would you like me to address the host?
Hey, Kung Fu, thanks for joining us, my friend.
Oh, this is my cousin Holly from Louisiana. Thanks for tuning in, Holly. Appreciate it.
Hey, Holly. How you doing?
Good.
She told me she's joined our group, so I guess she subscribes to us now, so she gets the message.
The more the merrier. So listen, before we get into the NBA Finals and the Celtics performance, I want to start off with Willie Howard Mays the third, or junior. I'm sorry, the junior. He passed last evening. Larry, Go-Go, myself, Charles are from an era where Willie Mays was a special person to us. Here's a guy that played 23 years, I think, in the majors, had over 600 home runs, had over 300 stolen bases, had a 301 batting average, 12 gold gloves. He was baseball. So I want to take a second, if we can, and just reflect. Larry, maybe perhaps share some thoughts, and then we'll get into the NBA.
Yeah, certainly a childhood hero of mine. And that was from an era, I'll say this especially for Charles's benefit, where most of the best athletes were baseball players.
Good point.
And he was certainly, one of the biggest stars growing up. And I think he even played up until I was in college. I think he finally retired while I was in college. So great guy. This is two great heroes along with Jerry West that I've lost in the last couple of weeks. But the thing about Willie Mays, I remember I think he had 660 home runs, 45 less than Babe Ruth. And he missed out on 2 years doing military service. And many people think he might have been the home run king had he not did his military service. So rest in peace, Willie Mays. My condolences to the family.
Phyllis, thanks for joining us this evening. Hope all is well. Go-Go, any thoughts about Mr. Mays?
He's probably the greatest ball player of all time. I just don't like the way he didn't retire in time. But before he retired, when he stayed too long, but when he was there before he lost all his youth, he probably was the greatest baseball player ever, in my opinion. Yeah.
Yeah. At 42 years old, he was rolling the ball in from center field, and he couldn't catch up to the fastball. But that was a money thing, I think, at that point. Bless his heart. Charles, do you know anything about Willie Mays?
Oh, yeah, of course I know about the Say Hey Kid. And just to say how influential he was, my friends and I were talking about it. One of my best friends, he said he wore a 24 when he played baseball growing up because of Willie Mays. So he was influential all the way down to my generation.
That's a good point. In fact, the Giants and the San Francisco Giants and the New York Mets have retired number 24 in honor of Willie Mays. It'll be interesting to see if the entire Major League Baseball perhaps retires that number. We'll see. We'll see what happens. And to another point that you made, Larry, he went into service when he was 21 and 22. Well, when he came out in 23, he won the MVP.
Yeah.
So you could almost deduce that perhaps when he was 21 and 22, he could have hit another 70 home runs, and he could be the home run leader.
And think about that, coming back and winning the MVP after 2 years of being inactive, not playing baseball. You know, the thing that I think the Giants and another team are supposed to be playing a game down in Birmingham on the field where he played for the Negro League.
Against the Cardinals.
Yeah, and I just heard that a couple of days ago that he wasn't going to be able to make it. I had no idea, what his condition was.
Yeah.
But they were really doing that in honor of him, and it's really a shame that we didn't do that a few years ago.
Right. That's a good point. I'll tell you what, though, Barack Obama gave him the medal of freedom.
Freedom,
They had a ceremony at the White House and put it over his, I just thought that was pretty cool. And they gave him a ride on Air Force One time, and they showed pictures of that. And I thought that was really cool. Willie Mays meant a lot. Him and Hank Aaron. I was telling somebody earlier, my all-time GOAT outfield. I'll see what you guys think about this. My all-time GOAT outfield is Mays in center, Barry Bonds in left, and Roberto Clemente in right. And I'd be willing to challenge almost anybody on that outfield. Larry, do you have a GOAT outfield, if you will?
I gotta stay away from that. Those guys are certainly very good, but you can look at Frank Robinson, only guy that won the MVP in both leagues. Mickey Mantle, just right along. There's probably plenty of other people I'm forgetting, but those guys. Clemente's always been my favorite player.
Right, me too. Right.
Can't argue with those guys.
Go. Do you have a GOAT outfield?
I would take Mays and Clemente. I can't name a third one.
Right,
too many options.
Yeah,
for
the
me
guy
to
that Hank Aaron would be one of them, wouldn't it?
Yeah, he's another one. Yeah.
Yeah, another great one.
I mean, he wasn't that great defensively, so I mean,
right.
I would.
Charles,
For me to take the great on the GOAT, he has to have an all around. He has to be an all around situation for me to say that.
Tool.
Yeah.
Run, throw, hit for average, home runs. Charles, how about yourself? Do you have any thought on kind of an all-time outfield?
I think I'd have to echo yours. I personally can't think of a three better than that. So I think that's probably my GOAT outfield too.
We'll miss you, Say Hey. What a life you've shared, and we've enjoyed it. So rest in peace, big fella. All right, well, let's get into it. The NBA, wow. It concluded on Monday. We have a champion, the Boston Celtics. It's their 18th title for Boston. I was wrong. I thought Dallas was going to get them in 6. So let's we're going to spend some time on that series. I'll start with you, Larry. What happened? What happened?
What happened to Dallas?
No, yes.
Okay. Boston's defense. They held them under 100 points 4 games, 4 out of 5 games. They were able to, I think we were talking on the last show, they didn't use weak side help, so that took away the lobs that people stayed at home with their big men, and they just challenged Kyrie and Luka and made them work on both ends of the court. They were switching off and taking them to the hole. They just kind of wore them down, and Boston just had too many good players.
Right. Go. What happened? I know you liked Dallas as well.
Yeah, I was completely wrong. I had Dallas winning 4-1. They got smashed at 4-1. So right now I'm the cockiness that you usually hear from me that's going to be held back a little bit because right now I feel and look stupid. I posted all across the world that Dallas was winning in 5 and they got embarrassed. So I don't have anything to say.
I was with you, Go. I thought so too. Charles, I know. Charles, well, Larry, you thought so. Didn't you think Dallas was going to win this thing too? You might have changed it as the series went on, but originally.
No, I thought it could go either way. And I thought that Dallas certainly had a rougher path there.
Right.
Seemed like they had a rougher path there, but Boston's overall record was very good. Right. And the series was really kind of anticlimactic to me because it was no real close games. I like 7 games all down to the wire, and none of them were really that interesting.
Right. Charles, what happened? What happened in that series?
I mean, I personally think what was expected to happen kind of happened. I mean, the Celtics across the board, other than the 2 stars, I mean, the Celtics are much better on paper than the Mavericks. I mean, Luka and Kyrie drive that Mavericks bus forward, and Kyrie was really absent those first 2 games, and Luka, he tried his best, but Luka himself couldn't carry him, and the Celtics have so many role players that can step up, like Porzingis in game 1 was huge, then Drew Holiday stepped up, and Derek, they just have so many guys that they could just throw at you. Peyton Pritchard hitting half-court shots, and so I think that more guys in the Celtics stepped up, and the Mavericks kind of weren't quite ready for the moment.
I'll give you that's a good point you just made, Charles. White and Holiday. And again, I've probably been harder on Holiday than anyone on this panel. I thought he was a little bit overrated, and he's shut me up in this entire playoffs. And I do feel like perhaps those guys stepped up, played really well, the Celtics. And our guys, White, not White, but Jones and PG Washington and even Kyrie, they just didn't. Maybe the stage was too big. I don't know, Larry. What do you think?
I think Boston just has better players than them. I think if you look at Brown and Tatum, maybe if you look at just 2 Maverick players, if they're better, they're not much better than them. But the next 4 or 5 players are all on the Celtics team, and they just couldn't match up. I like Holiday. I like White. And they can switch so well. Their defense is so good. Even Horford, it was no switching. I mean, they had no problem switching, and anybody could guard anybody one-on-one.
Right. Aren't we go from an era where 4 guards and an aged center? Al Horford played really well, but he's gotten up in age. You would think that Dallas could pound that group because there's not 4 guards and a center, and they just couldn't do it, could they?
No, nope. They just couldn't. Dallas. Celtics have a lot of depth. They have a lot of depth. They have more depth than most people that they played this year. The bottom line is, I know you're trying to stress things out. Boston is just a better team. That's all. There's no mystery about all this. They're just a better team. That's all.
Well, there is a mystery. Hey, Lauren, thanks for joining, and that's a good point. You're right. At one point, I looked at that game, and maybe it was game 4, and Boston was down 48 points. Weren't they down 48 points to Dallas in that game? I mean, they ended up losing by 25 or 30.
No.
It was never 48.
It was never 40. No,
maybe it was 30. I don't know. They were down big time, and that was confusing. And then they came back and crushed them.
I heard someone say Boston came to celebrate, and Dallas came, and they were desperate trying to get a win. Right. And that probably was it.
What happened? So, Charles, the MVP went to Jaylen Brown. Do you think he should have gotten an MVP? And now, would you suggest that there's no Batman and Robin? They're just 2 Batmans? Would that be?
Yeah, I mean, I think like the statistic of Jason Tatum led the Celtics in points, rebounds, assists, and like he led the entire team in all 3 of those categories and didn't win MVP. But I think that in the games that were closer, in those bigger moments, Jaylen Brown was kind of the man. Like those first two games, Jaylen Brown was the man, and Jason Tatum had kind of bad games to start off. And by the time the series was 3-0, Jaylen Brown had kind of established himself. Then Jason Tatum, I think, probably played better in the last two, but by that point, I think they were. And then game 4, they crushed, or game 5, they crushed them. So I think that I think Jason Tatum is receiving a lot of criticism, and I don't think he played poorly by any stretch. But I think in the games that mattered, when people still didn't know which way it was going to go, Jaylen Brown was kind of the man, and I think that's why he got the MVP.
Yeah, Larry, do you think he should have got the MVP, and now do you think are they equal? I mean, maybe you always thought that. I don't know.
Yeah, I think if you check the tape, I've been saying there's not a lot of difference between those two. But Tatum seems to get all the credit. The big difference to me is that not that Tatum played poorly on defense, but Brown took on Luka, and he made him work for everything. Luka has some good stats and everything, but he took him on, and that was the challenge where Luka didn't get the assist that he normally gets. I can't take anything away from Brown. All around, he's the best player.
How about you, Go-Go? Between the two of them, did you think that Jaylen should have gotten the MVP, given what Charles just said? Tatum had the most points, assists, rebounds, and yet Jaylen got the MVP.
To be honest with you, I don't even know how, even though Jason, as your son said, Jason led in all the statistics. Even that being said, I don't even know how his name could have ever even been brought up for the MVP of that series.
Wow.
I don't even know why I was even close. I probably would have picked Holiday before I would have picked Tatum.
Yeah, that's not a bad.
But to answer your question, yes, I believe that Jaylen Brown should have won the MVP. Yes.
Do you think that now, maybe you thought this too, do you think they're now co-Batmans? There's not a Batman-Robin scenario that people used to talk about in terms of the two of them.
No. Jaylen Brown is clearly the better ball player than Tatum. Than Jason Tatum.
Interesting.
Where is he not? Where does he excel more than Jaylen Brown?
Well, I think Tatum
putting the ball in the hole. Jason Tatum's a better scorer.
Well, if that's what you say, I'm going to go by that, Charles.
I think they're pretty.
I don't think Tatum is a better scorer than him in crucial times of games. If you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems like every time it's an important game or something. Not every time, because the guy has scored 51 points in one final and 40 in another. But there are times where, make a long story short, it seems like Tatum disappears more than Jaylen Brown does in the crucial. That's what I say about that.
Right.
Charles, let me ask Charles a question. I'm curious. At the end of the end of a period or something, when you taking the last shot, which one do you prefer having the ball, Brown or Tatum?
I think personally, I think like my recency bias kind of wants to say Brown because he hit that crazy shot in the corner against the Pacers, and Tatum again early on in the crunch time wasn't great. But I think like over the course of the season, Jason Tatum had some great games down the stretch, but it was Thursday night against Cleveland, so we're not paying much attention to it. But I mean, through the course of the season, Jason Tatum played pretty well down the stretch. But during these finals, that was very magnified. He did disappear a bit, so I can acknowledge that. But I think I would still go with Tatum.
See, I wasn't even thinking he necessarily disappeared, but I don't think he handles the ball that well.
Mm-hmm.
And not that Brown is all that great either. But I really don't. I like Tatum to get it in rhythm or emotion or something like that. But when they clear out for him, he rarely scores to me.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy how narratives change though, because just last year, like based off last year's playoffs, everyone was dogging Jaylen Brown, saying he can't go left, he has no left hand, and now here we are a year later saying he's the best player on the championship team. So, I mean, narratives change quick.
And not only is he the best player on the championship team, he didn't even make first, second, or third team All-Pro, and Jason was
made first team.
First team All-Pro.
Yeah.
And not only was he first team All-Pro, I think Jason Tatum has been first team All-Pro the last 3 years or something like that. So
like
over the season, it seems like the experts,
Jason,
whoever they are, say it's Tatum. But I've come around on Jalen. I've come around on Holiday. And let's get to another part of this series that I had to come around on because I was wrong then, was Joe Masula. How do you pronounce his last name? Anyway, the coach. I thought if they didn't win this series, I thought he was going to be fired. And now I think he's in for a heck of a raise and an extension. He did a great job. They were prepared. And all of, like Larry said, all those lobs and so forth that Dallas did in the previous series, he cut that action out. What do you think, Larry? Does Joe deserve a lot of credit?
Yeah, I like their defensive strategy. I question the offense because sometimes to me all they do is shoot threes, but the result turned out well for them. So I guess he does all right. I can't knock him too much.
Right. How about you, Gogo? What kind of job did you think the head coach? You think he deserves some credit in terms of stifling the Dallas offense?
No, I don't think he may deserve some credit. But you asked me, I think he should get some credit.
Yes.
No, I don't. He didn't do anything that made it stand out in the series. I mean, they just got better players than Dallas. That's all I keep saying. I keep harping on the same thing, but that's it. They just got better players. I don't see where the coach did anything. What did the coach do to make me give him some credit? I don't know.
They were lobbing like crazy in them previous series, and they wasn't lobbing in this series. And so I don't know where the credit goes, but somebody got to get credit for putting together a strategy to cut down on those lobs, which helped Dallas big time. So I was kind of giving the coach, acknowledging the coach perhaps put together that game. Your point is valid, though. Dallas was a 5 seed. Boston was a 1 seed. I mean, Dallas, they went pretty far this year. They don't have nothing to hang their heads on. Charles, do you give what did you think of Joe before the series or before this playoff run? And what do you think of him now?
I actually have a hot take when it comes to coaching in the NBA. I don't believe coaching mattered all that much. Like if you look at the last 10 NBA champions, it's 9 times out of 10, it's the team that has the best players. And so I think if you take any of those 30 NBA coaches and gave them the Celtics against the Mavericks, they're going to put together a competent game plan to beat Dallas. And so I don't think, like, for example, Monty Williams, he was the coach of the year 2 years ago, big time, got fired from Phoenix, went to the Detroit Pistons. Now he went from having the best roster to the worst roster. They had, 14 wins last year? And he was fired the next year. So, in my opinion, I don't think coaching in NBA makes that much of a difference. I always think it's just.
Let me challenge that a little bit. There's a coach in Miami named Spoelstra.
Yeah.
And on paper, that team never seems like they got a lot.
I agree. I believe Spoelstra is an exception to the rule. I believe he's an exception to the rule. I agree. He is a great playoff coach.
Let's see what the fellas think about that statement, Charles. Larry, do you think coaching matters in the National Basketball Association?
I think it does. I think certainly it's more of a players' league. Like college, definitely the coaches are the star. But I'll even give a coach that got fired this year, Cleveland's coach, Bickerstaff. I thought he did a good job. Right. I saw him take a team and they improved every year. Then they lose to the Celtics and he gets fired. And they were competitive against the Celtics without their main player. I thought he did a good job.
2 main players.
Yeah, how about that? I thought he did a decent job of what he had. So I think some of them show some moxie and they show adjustments. But ultimately, if you have good players, you shouldn't blow it.
Yeah. Gogo, what do you think? Do you think what Charles was saying in terms of NBA coaches are perhaps a tad overrated or don't matter or however he put it?
I look at Spoelstra as an exception as far as being a coach. I've been questioning why everybody's going crazy over Tyronn Lue and all these other guys. I lean towards what your son says about. Well, I won't say that coaches do make a difference. If you just can't coach, it's gonna make a difference. But I don't know too many coaches that are improving the team out there. There are some coaches that can hurt the team for sure.
I agree with that 100%.
Yeah.
I agree with that. I agree there are coaches that can bring a team down, but like
Yeah.
Greg Popovich, people say Greg Popovich, one of the best coaches of all time. And the Spurs are, because they have and I'm not saying the Spurs roster is awful, so they're going to be awful.
Right.
I think the Knicks coach is pretty good too.
Tibbs.
Yeah. I think he's a decent coach.
Yeah. He got a lot out of that thing that they had with all those injuries. So let me ask you this. I have another controversial question as it relates to the Celtics. So Danny Ainge was a GM there for a while, and Danny Ainge drafted, Brown third, Tatum third, and then Brad Stevens has taken over. And he's made some nice acquisitions like Holiday, like Spoelstra, or not Spoelstra, but Porzingis, like White. I don't know where he came from.
Holiday.
Yeah. So Larry, who would you say is the better of the two general managers, Ainge or Stevens?
How long has Stevens been there?
I don't think he's been there more than 3-4 years as a GM.
2 years.
Okay, yeah, it seems like Ainge has been there longer, so I have to give the nod to him. But he certainly made some good moves putting together the team this year.
Right, agreed. How about you, Go? Any thoughts about those two GMs?
No.
Yeah,
Nope.
I mean those pieces that Stevens.
Yeah, you got to realize now. Not too many people in the world hate Duke or Boston more than me. So you got to take that. You have to take all that into consideration. You got to take all that into consideration too. I mean, it looks like Stevens made some moves. I mean, the team won a championship, but I could also pick that apart if I wanted to because I disliked them. But you never ask me nothing about Danny Ainge. Never. I'm never going to get it. So, I'm just letting people know. A lot of people say, "Dang, he crazy. He don't think nothing of Boston." I think they're a great team. They got good players. I just don't like them.
How about you, Charles? I mean, the Drew Holiday pickup. Marcus Smart 2 years ago was Defensive Player of the Year, and he was the heart and soul and guts of that thing. He got rid of that guy, bringing Drew Holiday.
Yeah.
Some people didn't like Porzingis. He picked that guy up. And this guy White, again, I don't know where White came from, but my God, he's a player, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. I mean, it's tough. Like, I agree. Ainge kind of built the stars with Tatum and Brown and kind of gave him that nucleus. And then Brad Stevens, he brought in he got him over the hump. So I don't know if I can say one is better than the other. I mean, they were both very necessary. And if Ainge doesn't give Stevens those pieces to work with, does he get it done? I don't know. And if Stevens doesn't have Ainge with that foundation, so it's hard to say.
Our friend David is in on tonight because Brad is from Indianapolis. I think David would be expressing a different kind of output, wouldn't he? Just having fun with you, David, if you're watching. All right. Well, look, let's begin to put a wrap on the 2023-2024 NBA season. Congratulations to Boston. They now have 18 championships. LA has 17. Quick thing about what happened in NBA today, Siakam, who played for the Pacers, they had made it a trade in the middle of the season to get him. He signed his contract today, $190 million for 4 years. Congratulations to you, Mr. Siakam. Wow. And Charles mentioned this earlier, Monty Williams. He signed an 8-year deal 2 years ago. And they told him, here's $65 million, now get out. So I don't know what to make of those two things. Larry, any thoughts on that? Any reaction to either of those two things?
I'm not sure what Detroit expected out of Monty Williams. And I think he was only there 1 year. I think he's only there 1 year.
Not two.
Yeah, I think it was
he's only been there 1 year. So if they want to eat $60 million, that's on them. I remember he originally said he wanted to spend time with his children, because his wife tragically got killed in a car accident. And
his new wife, I think, has cancer.
Okay. And then he was just tired of coaching, and then they made him off. He couldn't refuse. So now he's got the money, and he can go back and spend time with his family.
Good Christ. How about you, Go? Any thoughts on the Siakam thing or the Monty Williams firing? I didn't see that.
That was a good move by Indiana to sign him. He's a crucial part of their team. He will become a crucial part of their team. What was the other question? Was Siakam and what was the other guy?
And then Monty Williams.
What are you asking me? What are you asking me about that?
Were you shocked a little bit about that after a guy signs a 7-year deal?
How many wins did they have?
14.
Yeah, 14.
So
and they fell in the lottery.
Yeah, I don't understand the question.
Well, I mean,
it's obvious this guy's not working. Isn't it obvious? Do you want to give him some more time? He's a black man. Come on. How much time
Phil Jackson get more than 14 wins with that Detroit team? No. Right. That's all I'm saying. I'm just saying 1 year, and it was a mess when he took it over. So,
and their GM is also a black man. So,
by the way, he got fired too.
It don't matter. He got fired too, and though he's the general manager, he ain't the owner. You know, everybody. If the owner say he got to go, he got to go. No matter who.
It's time to be president.
You got
fired for giving him that contract. That's why the GM's got.
You got 14 losses. Come on, man.
14 wins, right?
That's crazy. He would have been gone half the season. I don't care, man. Come on, if it ain't working, it's not working, man.
60 million, get out.
You want to try to give somebody a chance. You're giving them all that money. I understand what people are saying, but in the end, 14 losses, 14 wins, you gotta go.
Go, don't mess around.
You gotta go.
All right. Well, let's pivot a little bit. Before we pivot to the National Football League, let me throw this out at you all because I'm new to this, and I don't know if you guys, because it used to be a time in our era we followed boxing pretty good. And I haven't really followed boxing in years. And yet I was over a guy's house on Saturday, and everybody was excited. This little kiddie party started out in the afternoon, and everyone stayed late, the adults, to watch a lightweight bout with this guy named Tank Lewis.
Davis.
Tank Davis. Okay. And I went, wait, who's Tank Davis? And they said, oh my God, Chuck, you don't know who he is? He is the next best thing. He's out of Baltimore. He's tough as nails, has a big left hand. He's a lightweight. And these were ladies talking to me too. And they all stuck around to watch the fight. I didn't stick around to watch the fight, but I saw that the next day he knocked out Frank Martin. Larry, do you know anything about Tank? And have you been following?
Not really, but my son had a bunch of people over here Saturday night, and it hit his voice was all into it. I knew he was from Baltimore. That's what they told me. He was from Baltimore.
Right. How about you, Go? Have you ever heard of Tank, and do you know anything about him? Have you been following him over the last? I mean, Saturday was the first time I'd ever heard of him.
Well, I'm obviously I'm not that knowledgeable about soccer or hockey.
He is a sports doctor.
But I am the sports doctor. So, I'm sorry.
Come to the right place.
To answer your question, Charles, yes, I have heard of him. That's all I got to do. I ain't got to go to all that, have those long soliloquies. Just answer the question. Yes, I have heard of him.
Well, I mean, do you know, is there anything you can add about, like, is he like a Sugar Ray Leonard? I mean, what is
he? The young boys describe, you use their description that describes him. Wow. He's from Baltimore. You already know.
Gotta be tough-minded, huh?
People don't. It ain't nothing but tough people come out of Baltimore. I don't like the stereotype. They're tough over Baltimore.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So I just Chuck has to keep an eye on this guy Tank because everybody's talking about him. So I need to get into it a little bit. Charles, you know anything about Tank prior to Saturday, or?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really follow boxing, but like I know, I've known about Tank Davis for a long time.
Oh yes, my friends love Trevante. That's his real name. Yeah. It's amazing how the young people really like him. You were at that party with me, Charles, and they all stayed, the adults and the young people, to watch the fight. So,
yeah, I knew that fight was going on Saturday night. Everyone was talking about it.
Right.
Maybe if you just spare a little time of champion Kalen Clark and see what else is going on in the sports world, you probably might know about it.
Good point.
Yeah.
Go.
Yeah.
Good point. Charles, don't be offended, but that Go said he didn't know anything about soccer, because I know that's your go-to. And when you heard that, I know your ears perked up a little bit. So don't take it easy on Go in that area. Okay?
No, it's all good. I mean, you know, I don't. Soccer doesn't excite me, but it does everyone else. It's the number one sport in the world. What more can you say than it is? It's the number one sport in the world.
Charles loves his soccer, boy. Lord have mercy.
I
Kung
do.
Fu.
I love Arsenal, Charles. That's my sport.
I'm a big Manchester City fan. I know a lot of Arsenal fans, though. I have a lot of friends that will be happy to hear that.
Where does Mbappe play for? Who does he play for? Does he play for any of those two teams?
He just signed for Real Madrid.
Yeah, he broke his nose or something the other day.
Yeah, he did. He broke his nose yesterday.
Yeah.
Kung Fu says Davis showboats too much.
Yeah. He did a backflip. He did a backflip after he knocked the dude out.
All right.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah. I mean, they said he was getting his butt kicked the entire fight. And he knocked him out, got up on the ring, did a backflip.
Wow.
I remember somebody knocked Aaron Pryor down. He did a backflip, then knocked the guy out.
Knocked him out.
Yeah.
Now again, golden time of boxing, because Aaron Pryor, as good as he was, we didn't really, because those other guys, Hearns and Leonard, and those guys were so much bigger in terms of getting publicity. But Hawk Time, what was the nickname? Hawk Time or something? He could play. I mean,
they wouldn't fight him.
No.
They didn't want to get in there with him.
Right. All right, let's get into the National Football League a little bit. So we have Charles. Thank you again for being our special guest. Charles just got back from OTAs and mini camps, and he's been out in Vegas since the first week of April or so, training with those folks. And so, Charles, how did it go? I mean, what was it like? Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, I mean, it went well. OTAs, so the way it kind of works is like the first week is just, we do like football, X and O's with our coaches, and then we have strength and conditioning with our conditioning coaches, and those are kind of separate. And then the next couple weeks, we go on the field and we do more movement, like football specific stuff with our coaches, but still nothing like competitive, just, cornerbacks work their feet, linemen work their strikes, stuff like that. And then the last couple of weeks, the last about month and a half, it's then we go out there for OTAs, which is just, kind of like a full practice, just helmets. And so, it gets pretty competitive, guys. Right now it's 90 guys. And so as we go through OTAs and through the training camp, they'll go from 90 down to 53 guys after the preseason games. And so, guys are trying to, as I always say, it's kind of like two camps going on at once. Like, the top half, they're preparing for the season and getting ready for week 1 against the Ravens. And then the next, or against the Chargers. And then the bottom 45 are, just fighting for a job, just trying to be there for week 1. So it's kind of like two camps going on at the same time.
I got a question for him, if it's okay. How much contact do you guys do in practice up to the regular season? Do you have any contact other than preseason games?
So each team is different. So I know some teams during camp, they don't hit at all. They just, they're like, you guys are professionals. You guys know how to tackle. You guys know how to be physical. We don't need to teach that by any means. They just want to preserve guys' bodies. So some teams don't hit at all during camp until their games. And then and then other teams, you have other coaches where they're just, full contact, full tackle to the ground, just knocking heads. And so you only have a certain amount of full contact practices because NFL rules and NFLPA rules. But it just depends on who your coach is, really.
Okay.
So let me ask you this, Charles. Since you've been involved with this, why do they say the OTAs are volunteer, but they get mad when someone doesn't show up?
Because it's it's voluntary, hint, hint, wink, wink. But, for a guy like me, if I missed OTAs, don't even come back. Don't even come back. But, if you're a bigger name guy, they obviously they want you there. But, if a star player didn't show up, they're still going to be a star player. Like if Tyreek Hill didn't come to a OTA practice, come week 1, he's still going to be Tyreek Hill regardless. So the team, everyone knows him. He's established. So they want, like, they obviously, the team wants you there because it's, you know, like, you're an athlete. What else? Like, what else do you have to do? But if you're not there and you're a star guy, the
how do the players look at it? I don't know if people don't have contracts, they kind of hold out. But how do the players look at each other? Is it a lot of pressure amongst yourselves to say, hey, we need to be here working together? Or do the players say, if somebody doesn't show up, you know, no big deal?
I mean, it depends. You have, you know, different. Most guys really understand. Like, most guys understand if you're a star player, that if you're at OTAs, you're really doing that out of like the kindness of your heart. Like, it doesn't really benefit you being there. So most guys understand that if a star doesn't show up, that, like, you know, they're just doing them, which guys understand, guys respect. So it's not. I've never really seen animosity or anything like that for somebody missing OTAs.
Okay.
Walk us through a typical day. So you say you contrast an OTA day and a mini camp day. You know, what time do you get to the facility?
So for OTAs, we started at 7 in the morning. So the OTAs and minicamp were pretty much the same day up until, like, I'll just get into that. So they're identical for the start of the day. So we started at 7 in the morning. And we'd have a team meeting in the morning, and coach would talk to the whole team. And then from there, we'd be in there for 10, 15 minutes, depending on the message. And then we go to our defensive meeting with, like, the entire defense, and the offense would meet with the entire offense. And so we'd be in those meetings for about, again, it could be anywhere from 5 minutes, just a quick message from your coordinator, or it could be 25 minutes installing a defense, making adjustments from yesterday, just all depends. And then from there, you'll go to your position meetings. So the D-line will go to our defensive line meetings, the linebackers go to the linebackers, the safeties go to the safeties. And so those combined, like the defense and position meeting, usually are about an hour and a half. And then from there, in Vegas, we're trying to beat the sun. So we start at 7 in the morning, and then we have those meetings, and then we're out on the practice field 9:40, and so we usually have a walkthrough before, just walking through the plays, walking through the X's and O's, making sure everybody understands their assignments. And so, you know, it's one thing to know it in the classroom, it's another thing to understand it on the field. And so we usually have a walkthrough, and then we go out there and we practice for hour and a half, 2 hours. And then so for OTAs, like, after that, the day was over. It's about 12 o'clock, and so the day is over. But a lot of guys stay after to meet with coaches or rehab, or, you know, we have to lift after practice as well. But then after the lift, your day is done. So, but then with mini camp, after practice, after our lift, then we'd have more meetings where we'd watch practice again with the entire defense. And then from there, we'd have special teams meetings. So we'd watch special teams tape, and then we'd go to our individual position meetings. And then from there, the day was over at about 4.
Wow.
It's a full-time job.
Yeah. Yeah.
Charles, when you started out in the NFL, did you just notice a decided difference in the speed from where you were playing in college and the NFL?
Good question.
Yes and no. Like, I would say that the way one of my friends put it to me when I was coming out my rookie year, he said, look, going to the NFL is just like the best player you played in college is just now who you're playing in the NFL. So it's nothing you've never seen before. It's just like UNC had really good running backs. It's just, well, the NFL, they have UNC running backs. And Miami had the best receivers. So the team's going to have those UNC running backs and the Miami receivers. And so it's just a common, so it was nothing like I'd never seen before. It was just all the best teams all at once. And so it wasn't really I wasn't like, oh my God, I can't do this. It was just understanding that every single play, there was no like weaknesses out there anymore. There was no guys that shouldn't be out there. And so, but it wasn't like eye-opening.
Okay.
Except there are a couple guys where it's like, right, that's different. But
Well,
the majority.
Follow up on Earl, so they weren't bigger, stronger, and faster?
I mean, they weren't bigger.
It looks faster. It looks faster when I watch a pro game to a college game.
No, it does. Absolutely. Like, like there's no Tyreek Hill in college, but I mean the fastest guy that you see in college is the same fastest guy you're seeing on Sunday.
Okay.
Ooh.
Well, I don't want to. I want to single a person out, but I don't want to go deep in it. So, we have not. Now that I've gotten into the Raiders, I really like this guy, number 98, named Max Crosby. But I believe that Max, from the outside looking at him, I'm thinking this guy is a maniac, and he must be a hard worker, and he's developed himself. Tell me about Max's work ethic, or is he just gifted naturally like that? Does that make sense, that question?
Yeah, no, I mean, he's obviously naturally gifted, but Max might be the hardest worker I've ever been around from a player. I mean, he is legitimately the first one into our building, the last one out. He really sets the tone, like in our building. Like when Max says go, everyone's going, from the player to the coaches to the everyone. I mean, he's the most down to earth dude you'll come across. He talks to everyone. He's nice as can be. But I mean, like I texted in our defensive line group chat today at 8:30 this morning, and I'm in Maryland, and he was the first one to respond at 8:31, which is 5:31 in Las Vegas. Wow. So I mean, during the season, during the off season, he's always full go.
Wow. Yeah, he wants to be special. He said. I've heard him talk about that. Any other questions that we might have of what is the okay? I have one. What is the hardest part, Charles? What is like either a part of the practice or maybe it's lifting? What is the hardest part of the whole thing? Like when you're in the weight room, do you feel like you're as good as they are? Or if you're on what is the hardest part?
I wouldn't say the hardest. It's not physically. There's nothing physically where it's like this isn't. I mean, obviously, you have those practices where it's 2-minute drill. You done an hour and a half into practice, 9th play of the 2-minute drill, and your tongue's about to fall out your mouth. You can't see. Though that's obviously very difficult. But the hardest part is probably just the mental aspect of just, I mean, not always getting as many reps as you would like. You feel like you might be better than someone, but you're not seeing it on the depth chart. And I mean, just never really having certainty of what could happen next. I mean, I think that's probably the hardest part. And, like during the spring, you get super close with the guys in your position group. And then in August, those are the same guys you're fighting for a job. So, I mean, that's probably the hardest part really of it all, is just like the mental aspect and just the dynamic of everything. But I mean, physically, I mean, we're all professional athletes. So it's, right. And the NFLPA, the NFL, they have guardrails up to where they can't do anything. They can only have you a certain amount. They can only do so much. So I feel like in college, we got a lot harder practices and workouts. They're trying to build you up, and then the NFL, once guys are at a certain level, they're trying to just maintain. And so physically, nothing's too crazy, but it's just a lot of mental gymnastics.
So Charles, do you have to? I guess you do if you're considered for two positions. So you have to know where the linebackers go as well as the defensive linemen. Do you have to study both?
Yeah. So I study like the Sam linebacker, like the short. So it's not like a true stand-up linebacker. It's more a stand-up defensive end, edge rusher, outside linebacker. Sometimes dropping coverage, sometimes go. So yeah.
Great.
Well, since I have you, and there's been a lot of you played college athletics not too long ago, and since I have you, there's been a lot of changes since you've got out of school.
A lot.
What are your thoughts on NIL and portal and this whole college conferences coming together and merging and rivalries going away and so forth? What's your thoughts on college, on the state of college?
Yeah, I mean, I am a bit of a college football purist. Like, I love the Pac-12 and the Big 12 and I love those old conferences. So it does break my heart seeing those go away. And I mean, Texas and Oklahoma, staples of the Big 12 and the Red River rivalry, and now seeing that go to the SEC. Like, I don't love seeing that, and just seeing guys transfer every year. And for me, my college experience, I loved it. I wouldn't trade my 4 years for the world. And a big part of that is like the guys I did it with. Like, we were super close. We weren't always better than the teams we played against, but we loved each other. We played hard. We just had that unity, and I feel like a lot of that is kind of getting lost And so that kind of breaks my heart to see. But on the other side, I'm happy to see that, players are getting paid and coaches and schools are making all this money off of players. So I am happy to see players are getting that autonomy and using their earning power. But it definitely, I am definitely sad to see some old traditions kind of die out.
Right.
Yeah.
Larry, Gogo, you guys have anything else you'd like to bounce off of Charles before we touch on maybe the WNBA real quickly before we go to closing comments?
I was still wondering about the NIL. I heard that they're going back a couple of years and paying people a few years. You think you'll be impacted by that?
I don't think so, but hopefully. But I don't think so.
Was Virginia ever on any like any of the games, the video games? Like was your name, image, and likeness used there?
Not in any of the no. By the time I was in school, they had stopped making the games.
Okay. Trying to help you out here, man.
I know. I wish.
All right. Well, how about rule changes? Did you guys spend any time in minicamp on the new rule changes of the National Football League? And if so, what's one rule change you'd like to share with us to kind of keep an eye on that caught your attention?
Oh yeah, the new kickoff rule. It's going to change. It'll change everything. Like the old kickoff is done. Like this is a whole new play. Our special teams coach always told us, don't even think about the old kick. Don't think about any of their strategies. It's a completely different play. It'll be interesting to see how these preseason games look and teams just trying things out. I've seen like the Ravens kicker said he's been putting on weight to prepare, that he'll have to make more tackles. I've seen teams say they might not even use their own kicker and just use a position player to kick the ball 40 yards. And so
so where do they kick off from in the new rule?
So the ball is on the new rule, the ball is still kicked off from the 35-yard line, but it now just has to land from anywhere between the goal line and the 20-yard line. So it's kicking it from the 35 to the 20 is just 45 yards. So and as soon as the ball hits the ground or is caught in the air, then the kickoff team is lined up on the 30. And no, the kickoff team is lined up on the 35, and the kick return team is on the 30, and from there they're just rolling.
Wow!
So they can't. Is it against the rules to kick it into the end zone?
You can kick it into the end zone, but then you get the ball at the third. It's I can't remember the exact rule, but it's not. You don't want to kick it into the end zone.
They push it beyond like the 25 or something like that. Okay,
yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
Interesting.
Wow. Okay, cool. All right. Well, look, let's get close to landing this show. Good stuff. Thank you for that input. Let's touch base just real quick on the WNBA. Only reason I want to touch on it is I saw a game on Sunday. Yes, it was Caitlin Clark. Yes, it was against Angel Reese. Yes, it was the Fever versus the Sky. And I tell you something, it was a sellout. I do think it got a little bit of the Bird Magic kind of thing for those two. I think both of them can play. Both those teams are not there yet. Both teams are playing better than they were earlier in the year. And it's caught my attention. It really has. The whole WNBA has caught my attention. So, Larry, you have any thoughts on either that game or anything over the last week in the WNBA?
Yeah, I'm a bigger fan. I always watch them, particularly since the NBA's gone. Like Connecticut, I saw them play again the other night. They look very dominant. And I think I mentioned last week I saw the Storm and the Aces play. And that game was so competitive. I mean, it was great. But Phoenix also has a good team. I saw Taurasi and Brittany Griner right after they were named to the All-Star team, and people talking about they shouldn't be on there. They were lighting stuff up. I love the competition there, and the pace of it is pretty fast. I saw the game with the Sky and the Fever. That game was pretty good, but I've started noticing they do look like weaker teams, even though their young players look pretty well.
Yeah, you're right. Physically weaker too. I mean, although Boston is playing better. Boston wasn't carrying her weight earlier in the year, but Aaliyah Boston is playing a lot better for that team.
Well, Chuck, I think they kind of she was the focal point of the offense last year. And I think the coach, it took him a while to figure out how to work those two in together. And they seem to be working well together, especially with giving goals and picking pops and stuff like that.
Yeah, a 27-point game last week. Go. Any observations in the past week of the WNBA you wanted to share? Or
no, but I don't. No, I don't quite understand your comparison to Bird and Magic with Caitlin and Reese. First of all, neither one of the people you're comparing them to Bird and Magic, they were nowhere near as talented as those two.
No doubt.
I just don't see that. I don't see that comparison at all.
Right. Well, they've captivated the people. They've captivated the people. The people are going to the games. The one's black, one's white. One won a national championship. That came into the league together. So I know they're not exactly the same, but there's something there. There is something there that I can't put my finger on, and I find it intriguing. And
Okay.
Yeah. Charles, any thoughts about the WNBA this past week?
No, I agree. I mean, I think that the WNBA has been getting a lot of publicity. Not all of it, obviously, has been great. Now it's been for basketball, but people are talking about the WNBA. I went to an Aces game when I was in Vegas, and I mean, it was packed. There was almost 19,000 people there, and so I mean, it's great seeing the sport grow. It's great seeing the WNBA finally get some attention, and just continue to take steps in the right direction.
Right.
Charles, why are the Aces struggling this year? They're struggling big time. Do you know why?
I don't know why, but they have been struggling. Yeah, I know they've been missing. I know they're definitely missing one of their. Chelsea Gray.
She was out. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting. One quick thing about her: Chelsea Gray broke her foot or did something to her foot in the finals last year, Game 3 of last year. She has not played since then, and yet she's on the Olympic team. Mm-hmm. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. But she's the reason why that team is not the same this year because she hasn't been with the team this year.
Yeah.
Charles, do you believe if you had anything to do with the Olympics, say you had power over the Olympics and the WNBA, would you have Caitlin Clark on the Olympic team?
I personally would, because it would continue to just grow the brand. It would continue to grow the game. It would keep all eyes on women's basketball, which is what you want. So I would have, but I mean, if you want to be a basketball purist and merit, cool, that I can understand that. But if I were the head of it, I would want to continue to grow the sport and grow the game. So I would have brought Caitlin Clark.
Okay. All right.
Let's wrap this up. Closing comments. Larry, do you have any this evening you'd like to share?
Well, I'm just going to encourage everyone to watch the WNBA. It's a very good brand of basketball. And for those of you who like Caitlin Clark, she's going to go against Lloyd in the Seattle Storm. I think it's Sunday. That ought to be it might be Thursday. I don't know. One day soon. That ought to be a pretty good matchup. And for those of you who don't know, Lloyd,
she's playing against the Mystics right now.
They've beaten the Mystics 88-81.
It's the final?
Yeah.
Go. Any closing comments, my friend?
No, I don't have any closing comments.
Charles, we use this section to wrap up the show, and if you have anything on your mind you'd like to share, we call it closing comments.
I would just encourage people, this is a Real Fellas Talk Sports. Like Gogo said, biggest sport in the world. The European Soccer Championships are going on right now. So this is just when countries playing against each other over in Europe, playing against each other for the European Championship, a bunch of storylines going on. And the Copa America, which is the same thing, but for the Americas, North and South. That starts tomorrow. Reigning World Cup champion, Lionel Messi in Argentina. They kick off against Canada in Atlanta. So those two soccer tournaments, huge deal for the soccer fans of the world. Euros kick off at 9 a.m. Last Copa game kicks off at like 10 p.m. So there's soccer all day long. So us soccer fans are in soccer heaven. So if y'all have nothing to do, just turn it on. And even if you don't like soccer, just watch the passion of the fans in the stands. And I mean, it'll be hard not to enjoy it.
Well, that's a wrap. Listen, everybody, thanks again for tuning in. We really appreciate you checking us out, especially the regulars who tune in every single week. We do value you. We do appreciate it. Everybody have a great rest of the week. Stay hydrated. That's what they tell me on the news. It's hot out there. Have a good time. We'll see you next week.
All right. Good show, Chuck. Good show.
Appreciate you guys having me on.
Oh, thanks for joining us, man.
Yeah, it was great. Good show. Okay.